Okay, so overall, what I feel is that money is, typically very important for everyone who is living. So it could be that you are the earning member. It could be you are just part of a family where you are not earning currently. But all said and done, if you look at our needs, so most of you will be aware of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, in which there is the base, which is the physiological needs, which is the food, water, air, which all of us need. Beyond that comes the safety and security needs, and money is, this is where it belongs. So it is just above the physiological needs, where your safety and security which comes from money. And all of us will be affected by the ups and downs which is happening, the inflows, the outflows, what kind, because whatever we do, even the the video which we are doing today, it requires an internet, and it requires all of us to come together like this and to be able to uh, participate in a conversation like this. Even for that we need an internet, and for the internet we need money. All of you are, you have just completed your education. For the education, your parents must have spent money for fees, for your admission, for your courses, and that is where how you stand today. Now where you stand today, you are actually poised to start your own career, where you will become the earner. Till today, most of you are actually you are users of the money which your parents have been earning. Now you yourself will be coming into the earning arena, and once you come to the earning arena, it becomes very important what you do with your salary, what you do with your money. And that is what I am trying to at least leave you with few important tips which you will remember once you have the money in your hand. So let's start this off. So if we look at what because everyone loves freedom. Now what exactly is freedom? Now in that uh, freedom can be there are various interpretation. For all of us it could be very different. So some of you may say that freedom is what time I want to wake up, what time I want to go to bed, depends on what I want to do in the evening. Some of you may say that I don't want to spend too much time with my boss, that's my freedom. Others may say that I want to spend more time with people I love. It could be my family, my friends. I would rather spend some more time with them. And in today's rat race, this particular freedom is something which is really sought after, because not many of us actually have the time or the wherewithal to spend more time with family and friends. Of course, in the corona times, it is with the forced lockdown, we are that's the good part of it. We are actually spending more time with our family. uh, Freedom for some people, it could also mean that you want to start your own project. You have some nice idea, you want to kick off your startup company or start something of your own. It could be any of your passion projects as well. uh, if you ask any of your parents, you will see that most of us have some kind of a loan which is going on. And almost 90 to 95% of the people at any point of time in their life would have taken a home loan at least, if not any other loan like a car loan or a personal loan. But of course these days, because purchase of a house is such a big ticket expense, typically almost all of us take a home loan for it. So till your home loan is there, you cannot become free, because आपका जब तक EMI चलता रहेगा, you cannot, break free of this cycle of, doing a job, earning money, salary coming in, and then you paying your EMI. So that's a cycle. And at some point of time, I do, advise my clients that you have to, start thinking about getting debt free or loan free, so that your EMIs can stop. But in all of this, I mean, just for living, you need money. And how do you then, we come to the next stage, that, okay, where will this money come from then? How do you earn this money? How do you, after earning, how do you grow money? Now, if you look at, a rich person, suppose you are, looking at a neighbor who's very rich, he's got a fantastic car, who drives a BMW, has got, all the gadgets at home, has a very fantastic lifestyle. Typically, from outside, people will say that, yeah, he's a very rich man, he's a wealthy man. But that is not what wealth is. Wealth is to be able to have the freedom to do what you want. It's not about having the, the assets to show off. It is having the assets in such places which will give you an equivalent of a salary coming in. That is what a truly wealthy person is, who does not work for a living. That person is truly wealthy, and not a person who is actually, driving around in a Mercedes and going for fancy holidays, because his bank balance could very well be zero. He could be doing all of this with just loans. So you do not want that. What you want is true wealth, and true wealth means that you do not have to earn your living on a day-to-day basis. That is what is true wealth. So our purpose, our long-term purpose is that. But obviously, wealth does not happen in overnight. It doesn't happen in a day. So we have to start. Where do we start? We start from the first salary. The first salary which comes into your hand, you have to start in a disciplined, in a very systematic way right from there. And that is where your journey will start. So there are certain, ideas which came to my mind, and I just thought, I'll put it together as to where this money is coming from. So all of you are, young, you're starting your, career. I would really suggest to you that you work on a job which actually excites you. Something you are, passionate about, something you are excited about. That is the kind of job you should take. Please do not get into a job which you hate, because then over a period of time, it will become a chore for you and you will not really enjoy life. Then you are, just going to office and just dragging and, going through the rigmarole of, your work, but it will not give you anything else other than your salary. So, and that kind of a situation will not sustain for too long. So at the start, please be very clear about what you want to do. Try to find out your passion and get a job in that particular area, because then you will really flourish and you will actually be able to grow in your career. The second point, which I would really like, I've mentioned a little bit, that you have to start saving from your first salary itself. Please do not blow away your whole salary saying that I need to celebrate. Whatever money you get, at least a small part. It could be 10%, it could be 20%. It's totally up to you how much. But do not spend away 100% of your first salary when the money comes into your hand. So that, in fact, I got a very similar, very good advice from one of my seniors when I got my first salary, which was in RBI. That was way back in 1988. That was my first salary. And it's hilarious. I got a salary of 1,800. This was in, 1988 is when I joined RBI. and for a paltry sum of 1,800, I spent a huge amount of 1,000 rupees. With 800 rupees, I opened a PPF account. That was the advice one of my seniors gave me, that Chaitali, you need to start saving and save now. And the best tax-free and safe investment is a PPF account. And I opened my PPF account in the first month of my income. And that has been, that was my first, step towards building for my future. My first stone, you could say, or my first brick. And today, you will not believe I am doing what I love doing. And I really don't, this is not my job. I enjoy doing this. And, my house and my food, which is coming to my table, everything else is taken care of with the money which I have made and which I've kept aside in the last 30 years when I have been working. So that is what, ideally you should all, aspire for. So start saving from your first salary itself. Another very practical advice is to automate your saving. That means do not wait to physically do something. Just put in a, automatic debit into your account, because that just really works. I have seen, because if you think that I will, put an FD once I have 1 lakh in my account, then I will do an FD, that day is never going to come. Or it will take, ages for you to reach that. Whereas if you start with even a 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees, you keep it aside. As soon as your salary comes in, first do your investment. Let all your, SIPs or whatever you're doing, let it go in the first week, 10 days itself. Then whatever is remaining in your account, you will be, happy to spend. Because these days we have got a debit card, we have got credit cards, and we can, go online, do purchases. We sometimes may overspend. So if you do your, in your mind, just be very clear how much you're going to save on a monthly basis. Put that aside, remaining part you can spend. Typically, if you were to ask me how much percentage, general, regular person should save, it is in the region of 30 to 35%. So if you're earning, say, 100 rupees, 30 to 35 rupees should go in your savings, and 65 to 70 rupees is what you would typically spend, which if you have a loan, your EMI should also be part of that 65 to 70 rupees. It should never be more than that. So that is how, it is divided. It's a very big thumb rule, that 30 to 35%, at least 30% you save from the salary what you are earning. Accumulate assets as you grow older. Now, when you do your saving, that saving is your asset, right? And over a period of time, these small savings will, collect, and it will actually become a, a larger amount. So I can give you a very simple example. Like suppose you were saving, say, 15,000, okay, on a monthly basis, and you go on saving this for at least 15 years. Then you can accumulate a 1 CR with these 15,000 per month accumulation. You can make 1 crore, and you can easily become a crorepati. So it is not a dream. It is not a pipe dream. It is not up in the air. All of it can be done by very small bits of savings on a monthly basis. Boond boond se sagar banta hai. That is what is, all of you would have done your muhavra when you were in school for Hindi. And this is exactly what, it rings true even in your personal finance. 2 small bits, and you will see that over a period of time, it will be a larger corpus. If you accumulate your assets all through your working life, by the time you are 45, I can assure you, you can actually stop working. And that's a fantastic thing, because I have seen, I've been in this financial industry for almost, 32 years, I have seen that people want to stop working at a lower and lower age. My father worked till he was 60. I stopped working and I, branched out when I was 40. My children, they don't even want to work till they're 40. They say by 30, 35, that's it. I want to work only till I'm 35. Beyond that, I don't want to work. By that time, I would have saved enough. And then I'll have an independent life of my own. So that is your target. Now, if at 45, you can stop earning, 46 year onwards, that's it. Your asset and your investment and your portfolio is going to give you, can replicate a salary. And you can continue your life as it is. Now, isn't that fantastic? I mean, that is exactly what, dreams are made of. And I'm saying that this dream is very much possible, but the strings of those dreams are in your hand today. To make this dream come possible, take the first step with your first salary, and I can help you in actually achieving those goals. And it is very much achievable. I've seen success stories like this. Once you have, what do you do with your 65 or 70 rupees, which you are actually spending? Try to differentiate between needs and wants. You need to prioritize your needs and take care of them first, and then get on to your wants. Now, if you want, I'm not saying that the wants are, should not be considered at all. Please keep it in mind. Yes, if you want something, it is very much possible. Here in a picture, it's shown as maybe a MacBook. Those are not cheap. Or an Apple iPhone, of course, you can actually have it. A very, high quality, special television screen you want. All of it, or a music system. Many of you must be, fans of music, want to listen to good music. These days, if you look at, any of these Bose systems or good speakers and all, none of it comes cheap. So you should have, those kind of aspirations, but do not take it on loan or do not take it on your credit card. That is what I'm trying to say. You please save for it and then buy it. Because then you will know the value. You will know the hard work and the toil which goes in earning each single rupee. And when you go out and buy something for 50,000, you know that, your blood and your sweat, 50,000 of those blood and sweat drops has gone in to be able to afford that. So when you save for it, you know the value. And also you're not getting into a debt trap or taking too much of loan or just swiping your card or your credit card to get things. It's very easy to get into that trap. Please do not get it. If at all you do want to use your credit card, I'm not saying do not use your credit card. Please use your credit card, but pay it off on a monthly basis before it becomes overdue. And these cycles are typically, you get if you do a purchase in a, doing a calculation as to when your billing comes in, typically you are getting something around, 45 days to 60 days of credit. That's it. Pay off within that 45 days to 60 days. Do not get into overdue method, because as soon as you get into overdue on your credit card, you are paying anything around 35 to 40% per annum interest on that overdue. Nobody, gives in a credit card, nobody will write 35 to 40% per annum as an interest rate, because it will immediately jump out at you and it's too high. What will they typically say? They will say that it's a 2.5%, it's a 3% per month interest. That is what they will say. And 3% per month interest, if you will see on a per annum basis, it comes to around, 36 to slightly more than 36% actually. because there is the calculation of interest as well. So do not get into the credit card overdue is what I'm trying to tell you. Use your credit card, but pay it off within 45 to 60 days. That is the ideal situation. Otherwise, you save. You create a basket, save on a monthly basis, have a 50,000 corpus, then go ahead and buy whatever gadget you want to buy. Please do that. Whatever assets you are buying, do not do it just for social image. Please purchase things which you are passionate about. If you are passionate about music, please invest in a good music system. But do not buy something which you just want to show off to your friends, or you generally want to show off to your neighbor. I mean, that really will not get you anywhere, and it will just suck away your money, which you could have done better use. All of this needs to wait. If at all you want to buy a flashy car, first take care of all your needs, take care of all your expenses, create your corpuses. Uske baad bhi, if you have money, please go ahead and buy your Mercedes. Okay. Invest in your future. Oh my God, this is absolutely important. Invest in your future, acquire skills, professional qualification. For this, whatever you have to spend, please go ahead and spend. Because all of you are still young, you need to create a solid CV for yourself. And experience and qualification go hand in hand. So please invest in some good quality certification, some skills, professional qualification. You should be spending on those kind of expenses. And once you start earning, do not go back to your parents to for funding of these kind of qualifications. You save money for yourself. You save for a particular course and then go ahead and do it. Do not go back to your parents to ask for money again once you start earning. Have a designated bank account to keep track of all your expenses. So ideally, you should be having two accounts. One will be your salary and your expenses account. The other account should be for your savings. So if at all you want to, start saving on a monthly basis, you want to do an RD, you want to do an FD, you want to start a SIP in your mutual fund, all of that should be from your second account, not from the first account. So your 100 rupees salary will come into your salary account. Immediately transfer 30 rupees to your savings account, your regular savings, from where you will do your monthly investments. Transfer 30 rupees there, 70 rupees you leave in your salary account. That is what will take care of your monthly expenses. And keeping a budget also helps. Once you, not immediately maybe, but still it's a good idea to keep track of your expenses and keeping a budget, a loose budget, not up to the paisa I'm saying, but at least in thousands you should be maintaining, so that you know where you're spending your money, and if at all, which particular basket you tend to overspend. So you should be, then next month onwards, you can be conscious of that particular basket and try to spend less there. So keeping a budget also, is very helpful in keeping you on track. So here I have tried to, give you the architecture of a typical life as to which stage wise what you do with your money. So your 20s to 35 would be your accumulation phase, and that is where you are earning, you're saving the maximum, you're trying to get into equity, all of that. You're also in this is the age where you would be purchasing a house, which means you will be taking on a home loan in this age between 20 to 35. You also should be doing your tax planning so that you don't end up paying too much of taxes at the end of the year. So tax planning typically should be done in the first quarter itself. April, May, June, done. Your tax planning, because you will have a very good idea about how much you're going to save, how much you're going to earn, sorry, how much you're going to earn for the financial year, and your tax planning should be in place in the first 3 months itself. Typically, all organizations also ask for, your commitment and what you're going to save for the whole year. So you need to give your declaration in these months itself. So your planning should be, tax planning should be in place between April, May, and June. Do not scramble around in the month of January as to what you want to do, and just buy a insurance policy or something like that to save your taxes. So between 20 and 35, you are also doing your career planning, and that is where the qualifications came in, which I was talking to you about in my last slide. Capital appreciation is the next stage, which is typically a 10-year period, a decade between 35 and 45 year age. And this is the age where you are looking at, paying off your debts, looking at asset diversification, outgo of fund for pre-planned family goals. Now, when I say pre-planned family goals, it is, something like putting our children to college, those kind of things. That is what happens in between the age of 35 to 45. I would say it's more towards the end, which these kind of, is there things in this chat? No, nothing for me. If you want to, ask a particular question or something, please go on putting it into the chat. So in this architecture, the third level is the capital distribution phase, which is when you stop earning and you have made enough of your assets, which will start giving you, your monthly expenses, and it comes from your portfolio. So you need to reallocate your funds in lower risk assets. Your estate planning should be in place. Estate planning means writing your will and who will get your assets after you. That's what is estate planning, retirement, will writing. So these are the three phases of the financial plan, and this is, typically all of us will be, going through these phases, and it gives us an idea about, what you would do. Okay, so next we are looking at, wealth creation. In wealth creation, what exactly do you do when you want to, create your wealth in the accumulation phase? So if you look at, traditional investments, yeah, I think the questions, there are some questions coming in. So I will be getting to the questions, maybe after the slides, so that there is a continuous flow, and then I'll take up all the questions. So please, as and when I'm speaking, if any, question comes to your mind, please go on typing it into the chat box, so that, after the presentation, I'll go back to the chat box and I'll be able to answer them one by one. So traditional investment avenues which we are looking at would be, a bank fixed deposit, physical gold, houses, land, shops, these kind of things, which are, which maybe, your parents or your grandparents would have done. But if you look at what are the modern avenues, you have so many more options. So in addition to the traditional investment avenues, you also can invest in bonds, you can invest in equity, and equity you can, access through stocks, direct equity, or you can through mutual funds. You could also do REITs, which is, basically you have various REITs in real estate. You can invest in a real estate without buying a particular property. So that is also a possibility. In India, it's not yet developed too much. It was, thought about, and it was actually launched about 10 to 12 years back, but it did not really take off. But it definitely is an option. In international markets, REITs do very well. You could invest in paper gold. You could also invest in art, private equity. All these are, options which are there for you and me to invest in today's term. Oh my God, something is wrong and I'm not able to wait. Okay, yeah. So, what are the key factors for investing? When you are investing, what are the things you should look at? Now, this slide is extremely important, and I think if you were to take away something from the presentation today, please remember this slide. This is very, very critical. Point number one is that match your savings with your cash flow. What do I mean by this? What I mean is that if your salary is coming in monthly, do your savings monthly. Do not get into the trap of saying my earning is monthly, I'm going to save annually. That is never going to happen. If your income is quarterly, please save quarterly. In the US, people get paid either weekly or every 2 weeks. So theirs is either a 15-day cycle or 14-day cycle, fortnight, or a weekly cycle. For my US clients, I tell them save weekly. Typically here in India, the money comes in on an annual basis. So here I suggest that we save also, on a monthly basis. So here you should save also on a monthly basis. Wherever you are investing, keep the tax rates in mind. Do not compare pre-tax rates ever, because each asset class is taxed differently. And what you should be looking at is the net yield. And net yield is nothing but whatever your gains you got, that rate of interest minus the taxation. What you're left with is your yield. You should always look at your yield, and that is what is called the post-tax returns. For any investment, if anyone is coming to you and trying to sell a product to you, please ask him this question: what is the post-tax return I will get on this? So taxation is very critical. It is part of investing. It is not separate. It is not, something which you can keep apart. Another thing what you should always look at is inflation. So whenever you are investing anywhere, at least see that your yield, the net yield which I was talking to you about, your net yield should be more than the inflation rate. Today, typically for all our calculation, most financial planners, they take an inflation rate of 5%. So in any investment, if your post-tax return is less than 5%, then you should just forget about it, because you're not making money, you are losing money in that particular investment. The most critical thing about investment is diversification. And there is enough literature written about it. Everyone talks about it. Ray Dalio, he's an investment guru in the US. He has come up with a full diversified investment pattern which you can follow. Everyone talks about diversification. And when you go out and speak to general people, the man on the road, you will see all the investments are too much concentrated on one particular asset class, and that is not right. And very, very in too many cases I've seen that this largest asset class would be the house, and people feel very happy that I've got a house which is 1 crore, I've got a house which is 5 crores, I'm living in a house which is 12 crores. Excellent, very happy, yeah. But will you be able to sell that house? Because you're staying in that house. How will you encash that particular asset? Zero. It has got zero encashable value. So your house could be valued at 50 crores. It means nothing. Because you need to stay in that house and you are not, suppose you need, you need 1 crore. Are you going to sell off one of the walls of that house? Or are you going to sell off one room of that house? You can't do that. You can't make pieces of that. So your house should just be enough to comfortably let you and your family stay. That's it. But the house which you are staying on is not coming into net worth. Net worth is what you have as investment. It could be in your bank balance, it could be in your portfolio. That is what you are trying to build, not the house itself. For each year, take full advantage of the tax saving avenues. And under 80C, your maximum limit is 1.5 lakhs, and you should always try to fully utilize that 1.5 lakhs. And there are some other options now under National Pension Scheme, NPS. You can do an additional 50,000. Try to do that. You can also take advantage of the premiums and all which you are paying, which is under 80D on life insurance, health insurance. All of that comes under premium amount which you pay comes under 80D. Try to take full advantage of that. So there are various methods which has been given out for taxable income, and we should take care to utilize all of it. Diversification of assets, I've already told you, it is very important. You should have a little bit of money in all the asset classes. Typically, the largest asset class is debt, equity, gold, real estate. These are the four, typical large asset classes. Do not follow the herd. If everyone is, going ahead and purchasing something, you know that the price is inflated already. So please do not, just follow the herd. And if everyone else is buying, let me also go ahead and buy. Please don't do that. Do your own research. And that is how I'm coming to my last point on this slide, that never invest in any product or any, avenue which you do not understand. Do not get into the sweet talk of all these, the RMs and the product sellers which come and sweet talk you into, putting your money into something they want to sell. It is not something which you want to buy. They never come and ask you, what do you want? They always come up with a very nice, fantastic product. See, this product is going to give you so much money in so many years. This is the kind of return you will get. Do not get swayed by that. Take all the details, spend some time on it, talk to a few people who are from the finance industry, ask them, do you think this product is suitable for me? Should I go ahead and buy? Ask a few questions. And these people will be, very impatient. They'll be calling you morning, evening, trying to pressurize you, saying that, the offer is open only till midnight. You please do it today itself. Nothing doing. Do not get, swayed by that. Nothing ends by the midnight clock. If the product is good, you can please go ahead and buy it next day also. No problem. But give it some time. Spend a week sitting on it, thinking about it, talking to people, understanding it, then purchase. And just by doing this simple method, I would say 90% of your wrong calls or wrong decisions will be avoided. Do not buy a product with the drop of a hat. Take all the details, spend a week, and then take a decision to buy it. Another thing which I found very useful in the last, at least, 10, 15 years, where I have actually been managing portfolios, is that if you have asset classes which have low correlation to each other, then your overall portfolio is going to do well. Now, if you look at the screen, you will see the positive numbers on the top of the graph, those are the ones which are correlated to each other. Here, S&P 500 has been taken as a benchmark against which the correlation has been measured. So global equity has got good correlation with S&P 500. It is at plus 97%. 1% means it is perfectly correlated with each other. So S&P 500 is 1%. It means it is 100% correlated with itself. If you look at, see, REITs is coming here as well. If you look at commodities, let's look at commodities. Commodities is only 50% correlated to S&P 500. That means if S&P 500 goes up by say 20% in a year, commodities will typically go up only by 10%, half correlation. Similarly, if S&P 500 drops by 10% in a particular year, commodities will drop only by 5%, half of that, 50% correlation. So if all your 100 rupees was invested in only in S&P 500, the years when you lose money, you lose a lot. So therefore, part of it should be in commodities, and gold is part of commodity. Gold, silver, cotton, oil, crude oil, all of this, copper, oil seed, all of this is commodities. But typically, this is, the commodity market is open more for, the commodity traders. For general people like you and me, gold is what is, easily available to us, various forms, very good investment options. That is what typically we bring in commodity through gold. Let's look at, cash. Cash has zero correlation with S&P 500. And then you come to the negative one. These are the interesting ones. Investment grade bonds and currency. Currency has got negative correlation with S&P 500. So you should be diversified in currency as well. So do not have all your money in INR. Try to have some of your investment in, typically like we do, US dollar investment. So you should be having some dollar investments as well when you get into investing. What are the key factors for insurance? This is also very, very critical, important. Some of it, the basics people do not know. In insurance, life cover should be taken only for the earning member of the family. None of the non-earning member or children should have any kind of life cover. We're talking only about life cover here, not health. Life cover should be only for the person earning. And the thumb rule says that 10 times of your annual income should be the kind of cover which you should have. 10 times of your annual income. That's a very thumb rule generally for you. And do not take a health insurance till you have any liability or any person who is dependent on you. So as soon as you start working, there is nobody who is depending on your salary, right? Because your parents are already, they must be earning, or they are retired, they are getting their pension, they are already taken care of. You typically at your age, none of you are married, so there is no spouse to take care of. Obviously, then no children also. So with your salary, you are taking care of only yourself and your own expenses. So do not take a life cover for yourself. कोई LIC policy जाके खरीदने की जरूरत नहीं. If your parents are pushing you to buy a LIC policy, please do a call with me and I will make them understand why I'm telling them not to buy a policy for you. You should take the policy only if today your parents are depending on you and your salary से घर अगर चल रहा है. घर का खाना बनता है आपके सैलरी से, घर का रेंटल आप देते हो. Only in such a situation you buy a policy for yourself, term cover. And you will take your first policy only when you get married, when you have a spouse who is depending on you. If your spouse is earning, typically I would say for the first couple of years, no need to buy a cover for either of you. And you will think about insurance, and you will think about term cover, life cover for you and your spouse only when your child comes into the picture. Because that is when your child's future will depend on your earning capability. That is the time you take your life cover. Health cover is a must. Health cover you should typically take now itself. Although all of you are young, please take at least a 3 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh, 5 lakh kind of a cover. Because health expenses are too much these days. Even if you just get admitted to a hospital, single admission, 24 hours, you can easily spend about a lakh of rupees. So all of you are young, the premium will not be much. Please take, depending on your family and your lifestyle, you can take anything between 2 to 5 lakh health cover today itself. House insurance lena chahiye aap log please today after this call. This is a question all of you are going to ask your parents. ये जो जिस घर में आप रहते हो, is there a house insurance on that house against natural calamities or not? And natural calamity, natural disasters like earthquake, flood, fire, घर जो सबसे बड़े वैल्यू का होता है, सबके पास में अगर कोई भी हम पूछते हैं एसेट्स में, the largest value is the house, and people tend not to buy a insurance for their house. The premium is not too much for a typical, say, I'll give you a very ballpark figure. For a 2 BHK in a Delhi or a Bombay, if you take and you just take this earthquake, fire, very basic kind of a policy, it's like 2,500 to 3,000 only. That's it. So please take a cover. This is the first question all of you are going to ask after this call ends. You can also look for theft cover for your household items. There are interesting covers like a wallet cover. There's also a cyber cover. All of these you can take. Cyber cover, insures you, because all of us are on the net, on mobile. I mean, internet is, part of our life these days. And with the internet comes, security concerns. And those security concerns could partly be mitigated by taking a cyber cover. Again, the cyber cover is not very expensive. You can take about a lakh cover for hardly 1,500 or something like that. I took it last year. It was coming to around 1,500. So at least if there is, some breach of security, or your password is, compromised on any website, or you lose money because of, the PIN or something which on your mobile. These days, most of us do a lot of banking also on our mobiles. So all these are security threats. It's very good to have a lakh or 2 lakh cover under cyber cover. So these are the kind of, policies which I feel all of us should be aware of and we should be taking. This is the last actually, slide for today's evening. We can actually be able to achieve all of this. And by how do we do that? It is called the sure way. And what is the sure way? SURE. S is for save regularly, which I have already, number of times I have already mentioned in slide number 1, slide number 2. Second is understand your goals. What are you trying to achieve? Why are you saving? For whom are you saving? How much you are saving? After how many years you will need the money? That is what is called understand your goals. U stands for understanding your goals. R is for right product choice. do not get into a wrong product or a wrong or asset class. Because if you go do invest, but you are not investing in the right product, right asset class, then you could still go wrong. So product is very, very important. Try to get into a product which is low expenses. It does not need too much of monitoring. The investment can be automated. Look at what is the underlying asset it invests in. Look at its historical performance, and then go ahead and invest in that particular product. One thing which a lot of people actually forget to do after all investing and all is they do not evaluate every year. So the E of the SURE stands for evaluate every year. Evaluate your investment. Look at your investment. How are they doing? Which particular product is doing good? Which particular asset class has grown? Do a little bit of rebalancing every year. Something which has, grown beyond expectation, try to book profit in that, come out of that, and put it into something which has not grown too much. That is what is called rebalancing. So evaluate every year, go back, and typically you could do this. I've seen that it works very well towards the last 2 weeks in the year, in the calendar year, which is typically your Christmas and your New Year's time. Christmas, New Year's time, I have seen the work pressure is slightly less. Internationally, people are, in a very holiday mood. Not much is happening. That is the time you should sit with your portfolio, do an evaluation around that time, and see what else needs to be done, what needs to be changed, what needs to be revisited. Do all of those things with looking at your, investment and your portfolio. These are the only things, the SURE way. Save regularly, understand goals, right product choice, and evaluate every year. This is the only thing you need to focus on, and try to follow this method. Everything else will be, falling into place. Absolutely, it will be like a clockwork, and you will see that you have built something which you will not be able to comprehend, that after so many years, oh my God, have I created this? You will be like surprised, and you will be surprised by yourself that you have been able to do this. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the slides, and that is what I wanted to share with all of you. And now I'm going to the questions which has come into the chat, and I will just go chronologically on this. Please go on writing your, oh, I don't see the question. Where are you? Okay, there's only one question, guys, come on. और कोई question नहीं है? Please ask me whatever comes to your mind. Even if it is a stupid question, I'm happy to answer. Please do not think that, you will, the question is very stupid or people will laugh at me. Nothing doing. Please, in fact, if you want, I will not read out the names from here. Just put your question and I'm happy to answer. So someone, Aditya has asked if it is a good idea to take a loan for higher studies. So generally, I would say here in India, it is actually a good idea to take loan. I will tell you the advantages, and then I'll tell you a few disadvantages which it has. The advantage is that you do get, tax benefit on the payment which you are doing, both in terms of, the interest which you are paying on your education loan. And if this payment is being done by the guardian, by your parents, they will get the benefit of tax saving on the education loan for that particular year. And this full amount is deducted from the taxable income for the guardian. The second advantage is that sometimes, parents are not yet ready with the full money, or they have been unable to save for a high expense course for you, and you may be, and you've got admission to a very good college, to a very good professional course, but the expenses are too high, the fees are too high, your parents cannot afford. In such a situation, you are actually forced to take a education loan. What I see as an advantage is that it inculcates a discipline into the student, because then the payment responsibility is on the student once they start working after this education loan. After the professional qualification is over, once you start working, you need to pay off the loan from your income. Do not go back to your parents and ask them to repay it off. It is you who needs to repay. And that is the first thing, as a responsible, citizen, as a responsible member of the family, you need to take on that responsibility and pay off the loan. So I see that as an advantage, because you get to see the value of money, and you get to give the earnings the kind of importance. Each and every rupee which you earn, each and every dollar which you earn, it will actually help you in recognizing that fact, that so much of effort is going into earning. And then when you pay off your loan, then you will get a sense of achievement. So it is in a way good, I would say. But ideal situation is that you tell your parents, because today going back and rewinding the clock is not very, it's not practical, it cannot be done. So for you, taking a loan may only be the only way out if you have got admission to a good college, having a big ticket size fees. But for this should be a learning for you, that going forward, when you have a family and when you have your child, please don't let the child take a loan for higher education. You start saving earlier on itself. And I've got clients, by the way, it's not very unlikely. I have got clients who have started saving for the child's higher education even before the child is born. And those people are like, they are super comfortable, because they know that, yeah, they are ready. Whatever be the challenges comes in. And that is where I want all of you to be standing going forward. You be ready, look into the future, try to anticipate these kind of expenses and save for it from today itself. That would be the ideal situation. Let me go on to a next question, if at all some questions have come in. Yes, yeah, some questions have come in. Why should we not invest in life insurance unless there's no dependent member? Okay, that's a very interesting question. So let me concentrate on this word you have used. You have said invest. You are saying invest in a life insurance. So let me start by clarifying that insurance is not an investment. Insurance is risk mitigation. And insurance should be done only to get the money if a particular event happens. If that event happens, you will be out of money, or there will be a huge loss. To reduce that pressure, to mitigate that expenses or that loss, that is where you should buy an insurance. Investment and insurance are two separate baskets altogether. And if you want to invest in a pure investment product. And many people have, this misconception that when they are paying the premium for an insurance, they are actually saving. They think that it's a investment. It's not that. Your life cover should be a pure life cover. It's not an investment product. It should be a term cover which just covers your life. And they will give you an X amount of money if something happens, unfortunate happens to you. Let us take the example of a car insurance. In India, even elsewhere, car insurance is mandatory. As soon as you take your car out on the road, it should be having an insurance. In that, you pay the premium. If your car does not, have an accident throughout the year, what do? You just lose your premium. But next year, of course, you get a, no claim bonus and all that. That's a separate issue. But whatever, 7,000, 10,000, a larger car sometimes comes at 70,000 premium. But you just lose that money. If there is no accident, you don't get your premium back. That's it. It is risk cover. Your life cover should also be like that. It should be pure and simple risk cover. That if something were to happen to your life, your family or your dependents get that money. And if you want to invest for the future, do the investment in a pure investment product. All those traditional investment, new options, go to that slide. Look at the investment options and do that. And the second part of your question is, unless there is no dependent member, please explain. Okay. So who is this person? Let me see. Is it Sahu? Can I unmute you? Can somebody unmute Sahu? Where are you? Wait. So that,
Do you want me to unmute her?
Yeah, yes, please. That would be very nice.
Sahu.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Karthikeya Sahu. Because then, I think my answering will be better. I don't see Karthikeya Sahu.
I don't see their name. One second.
Yeah, oh, it must be coming. He is in WE school.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
Is it this one? I think it is one.
Let me try 1 second.
Yeah. So in the meantime, I'll go on. Once that person is unmuted, then I can talk to that person directly. So the second part of the question is, till there is no dependent. So what I'm trying to say here is, since it is a risk cover, your life should be covered only when there is a risk to the family of losing the livelihood. And if you were not there, the family will not know how to survive. Only in such a situation. Has Karthik been unmuted?
Yes.
Yes,
okay, very good. Karthik, can you hear me?
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So are you trying to get my point now that a person who is an earner? Okay, let's take a standalone person. आप खुद को ले लो, ठीक है? You get your first salary and you are earning. Do your parents depend on you?
No, ma'am, not right.
No. Do you have any sister or brother who is depending on you?
No, she's working.
Yes or no?
No, ma'am, no.
So currently you are your own boss, right? You don't have to bring in the salary and put food on the table for someone, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now let's take the, this is only an example I'm taking. So please don't feel bad.
No.
Suppose something were to happen to you. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Whose lifestyle will get affected amongst all your family members? No one?
No.
Nobody is depending on you?
No.
Unless you start paying the rent or unless you start, contributing to the ghar ka kharcha.
Yes, ma'am, but can I put a point, ma'am?
Yes, tell me.
Yeah, actually, I used to be working before joining MBA, and also my father's gonna be getting retired in around 3 years. So,
okay.
Is that a probable situation where I can
So your father is expected to retire in 3 years' time. You were working earlier. So I would say what is your age, if I may ask?
29.
29. So you will be 30, 31, 32 when your father retires, right?
Yes.
Your premium amount goes up slab wise every 5 years. So on 30th, your 30th birthday premium amount will go up. 35th birthday again premium amount will go up. 40th birthday again premium amount will go up. So in your particular this case, I would suggest, yeah, in your case, because eventually you'll have to take on the responsibility of the family.
Yes.
3 years hence, will your father have a pension?
Yeah. He's a government servant.
So if the pension is enough, then that's okay. But if your father's pension is not enough and you need to run the family, in such a case, you may consider taking a cover for yourself. And if possible, at least take a premium quote or at today's age, because after you turn 30, your premium may go up. So in your particular case, you may look at, and how much cover you would look at, just a ballpark figure, 10 times of your annual income is the kind of cover you should look at. But please buy only a term cover. Do not buy an endowment policy. Okay. Yeah.
Thank
okay.
you.
Is your question answered correctly now? Oh, are you satisfied? Any other doubts? Okay. So let me go on to the next question. Mayur's question is it good to start with share market or with some other? Okay. Share market is absolutely something which you need to learn and experience over a period of time. If at all you want to get into equity, do not start buying stocks the first time. You will not understand, you will burn your fingers, you will lose money. There's a high probability of losing money. So if at all you want to get into equity, start with mutual funds, equity mutual funds. That is the safer route to go, because all the fund manager is sitting there who's trying to manage the investment, manage the portfolio. So the chances of you going wrong and you losing money is slightly less there. But even amongst the equity fund, I would say start off with a large cap equity fund. Do not get into mid cap or small cap in the first go. Start with either a Sensex or a Nifty plan. Index plans are very good to start off with for a first timer equity investor. So equity index related equity funds or large cap equity funds is your starting point. And please invest your money by way of SIP or by way of monthly small amounts. Do not suppose you do have 2 lakh of rupees, do not buy a full 2 lakhs in one go. Divide it into smaller amounts and put it over a period of time. That is what my suggestion is to Mayur. Let me move on to the next question, which is Arpita. She has actually written to me privately. Let me read the question and see whether I can read it out. Excuse me, guys. Somebody's calling. Just a moment. Hello. Okay, yeah. So I'm reading out the question. Buy term insurance at early age, then the premium is low. So someday we will get married and we buy term insurance before marriage at young age, when we do not have much medical issues, save our premium. Okay. So this is actually, 2-3 things I would like to, point out here. That just to save on your premium, do not start off at a very young age. Like how I spoke to this earlier person who was at 29. At 29, you can still think about buying a policy. But do not buy a policy if you are like 24, 25. It just does not make sense. And the amount which you will buy a policy at that particular age will be very small, because your income is also very small when you are 25. And dheere dheere aap dekhoge, as your income starts growing up and in your career you are progressing, your need for term cover will go on increasing. So having a very small term cover, very early age, at a very early age, I would say the premium actually goes to waste. So rather invest that premium by way of a SIP and grow your money. It will not save you too much. Please buy the policy only when needed. The second question, second part of the question says that there are no medical issues. Now, when we are looking at term cover, the medical issues which typically hike up or jack up the premium is things like, typically what I have seen is, things like hypertension and heart issues. And these will kick in only when you are in your 40s. So a term cover when you take early 30s is an absolutely okay. A term cover, and of course there is a medical history they will take, which is a very generalized medical history. You just have to give your own declarations, and only when you turn 40 there is a actual medical test to take a term cover, and the medical examination will be done only after not even 40. It varies. For some insurance companies it's 40, for some insurance companies it's 45. So only when you reach that age you need to undergo a medical test to be able to buy a policy. Otherwise these term covers, only by self declaration it can be bought online. And please do not buy any of this through a agent or through a distributor. Please buy it online directly from the insurance. A very good place to compare policies is Policy Bazaar. Before buying any policy, you can put your requirements on Policy Bazaar. They will give you a number of quotes. You can have a best choice of quote from there, and then those guys will contact you and you can buy them. So please do, like I said, always compare before buying, deciding on anything. Compare, sit on it, spend read on on the internet, find out more details, then go ahead and purchase a policy. The next question is from Ayushi. She says, how about investing in SIP, mutual fund, stocks, etc.? Of course, I think I've already mentioned this, that mutual fund by way of SIP, which is systematic investment plan on a monthly basis, that's a very good thing to do. And you can actually even as small amount as 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, you can start off a SIP. As of now, please do not go into stocks. Once you have experienced equity mutual fund for at least 4 years, 5 years, after that get into stocks. Do not buy stocks and without experience and without adequate research. Next question is, what kind of investments are best for earning other passive income? Is investing in mutual funds a good choice? Yes, I would say for passive income, primarily it should be debt type of investments if you look at the asset class, because you are looking at steady income. If you are into equity, then equity is very volatile. It is high return but high risk. So equity would be highly volatile. So getting a steady income out of equity would be a little bit iffy. It will not be advisable. So a debt and bonds is what is typically preferred for steady income portfolio, which is at the time of retirement or when you are financially free. Second part of the question is investing in mutual funds a good choice? Yes, you can access debt mutual funds and park your money in a debt mutual fund, and from there you can do a systematic withdrawal plan, SWP, by which every month an X amount of time, suppose you set up a SWP of 20,000. So from your portfolio, 20,000 every month will come and sit in your savings bank account. It will replicate your salary. And the SWP amount will be credited directly into your account. You need not initiate anything, physical intervention not required, and it just comes and sits in your account, and then you go ahead and do your monthly expenses, swipe your card, use your debit card for whatever needs you have. So yes, mutual funds is actually a good option because it is very flexible. Mutual fund, by the way, it is an instrument. Mutual fund is not an asset class. Mutual fund is a very good instrument to create a passive income portfolio. If at all you want, you can have just about say 20 or 25% equity in your passive income portfolio, but primarily 75 to 80% should be in your debt funds. That is how you can have a steady income throughout the year. Next question is it better to live on rent basis or buy your own place on loan or other investment like mutual fund? This is a very good question. Oh, this is again coming from Kartikeya. So Kartik, so I would say historically Indians have been, very focused on buying a house, and, people think that they are sort of settling down and you should buy a house. But financially, I have seen these days, it does not make sense, especially in metros and in large cities where purchase of houses have become very, very expensive. So the real estate is very highly, leveraged in today's date. So slowly we are moving towards, advising people to stay on rent rather than put, lakhs, because it's not even lakhs, it's crores now, because you do not get in Bombay, you don't get a nice, house worth staying less than 2 crores. Even in Bombay, NCR, I have seen, 2.5 is typically what you would spend, 2.5 crores on a small house, and that too not in a fantastic location. If you are looking at a very good location, good 3 BHK house, then immediately it goes up to 6 to 10 crores. Now investing that kind of money, in a particular asset, which is not even giving you anything. And one thing I'll mention here is that houses do not have a very good yield. If you have got a second house and you give it out on rental, do you know how much you will get? Can any of you guess as a percentage how much you will get as a rental? What is the yield? It is 2.5 to 3% only. No, 5 to 8 nahi hota hai. 5 to 8 is like super huge. 5 to 8 you will get only in a commercial property. In a residential property, typically it is 2.5. 3% also if you get, you are lucky. And if we are looking at 2.5, 3%, then it's not even covering inflation. So, real estate as an investment, very bad idea. Real estate for living purposes, it actually depends a little bit, family to family. You may want to, maybe in a B class city, C class city, have a house of your own. You may spend your working life in a big metro, Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore. And finally, you may want to settle down in a small, townhouse somewhere in your native place. That's okay. But do not buy too much of real estate. And it is absolutely okay. And these days, especially where, our work does not, it's not like our forefathers where you get into a company and you spend, throughout your work life in that one company, and then you retire from there. These days, the average life I have seen of spending in a person spending number of years in a particular company is somewhere between, an average would be around 3 years. That's it. So every 3 years, if you're moving a company, it's very much possible you'll move your city also. And these days, you know, we are all global citizens. You may get a job opportunity in Europe. You may want to move to Australia. You may go to the US. What happens to your house then? So I would say, initially, do not buy the house. Concentrate on just saving. If you have a large corpus at any point of time, you want to buy a house, you can use that corpus and you buy the house and you settle down. Once you know which city you are settling down. But uske pehle mat kharido. That is, financially at least, that is what makes sense. That is my answer to this particular question. Shall we move on to the next question? Should there be an alternative source of income apart from one person? I didn't get this. Should there be an alternative source of income apart from the one person is engaged in? Okay, I think what this person is trying to ask is, other than the job which you are doing, should you have an alternative source of income? I think that's an excellent idea, especially in today's day and time when, you know, living expenses are very high. Maintaining a family and maintaining a household is, you know, a lot of pressure. So we should definitely not be having a single stream of income. About 80% of the families whom we advise and the number of clients which we have, I have seen both the spouses are working. So that could be, you know, another safety net, that both of you are working. You could look at, you know, an alternative source of income. But here I would suggest, whatever is your passion, maybe, you know, you can do something which you are passionate about, do something on the side, do something on, you know, Saturdays, Sundays when you are not working. It is excellent way to keep yourself engaged, to keep your, you know, creative juices running, to keep you, you know, keep your passion alive and also get some income out of it. But please be, you know, please be on the absolutely straightforward and declare all your income and pay taxes on it. Do not try to, you know, have a side source of income which you are not declaring. That may get you into trouble. So whatever you are earning, please do declare it and pay proper taxes on it. It is an excellent idea. The next question is how cyber cover works. Okay, so cyber cover, what I can do is, I will, you know, put a link here, so all of you can save the link for that. It will give you more details about cyber cover. Okay, that's the link, which is for Bajaj Allianz Cyber Insurance. And how it works, sorry, my charge is going off. I need to move to another location. So how cyber cover works is that, suppose, you know, you lose money due to some kind of, you know, phishing or somebody illegally siphoning off money from your account, those kind of, you know, eventualities, or you lose your password. Those kind of eventualities are covered by this cyber cover. The premium is not much, and you can look at the details at this particular link which I've just sent out. I think we have come to the end of the questions here. I'm still okay to, you know, answer a few more questions if any one of you are interested or would want to ask. Can we have some way to contact you in future? Oh, okay. Yes, sure. What I will do is, I don't know how Kanika would want to manage this. But what I could do is, okay, I can give you my email ID here. So that's my email ID, chaitali@azukefinance.com. I can also share my number, 9820454317. That's my number, and you can just take a screenshot of this and save it. And you can also send me a LinkedIn request, and I'm happy to be so on LinkedIn, you know, you can just send me a message and be in contact. Okay, so I think no more questions are coming in, so shall we?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Yes, I just enjoy this, and this I'm so passionate about. I mean, I can go on, you know, talking about this throughout the night.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time out.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey,
bye,
thank
everyone.
you all. See you
Take
in the
care.
next
Have a
Career
good
Cafe session.
night.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.